Here we go.
All right, welcome again to Social Distillation, the submarine still of the internet, where we attempt to drop the beat and pour white lightning straight onto your brain. What are we talking about today, Samo?
Oh, today is going to be a fun one because one of our favorite interviewees was on Modern Wisdom spreading some facts, and she just wrote a new book, which I just ordered. But that's Dr. Deborah So, which this is End of Gender right above me, which is hers, and she's a fantastic writer. So look her up. It's very easy to read. I'm a slow reader, and it just flows. So that's really good. But she's a sexologist. Realistically, she's a psychologist that studies. Her main thing was paraphilias, but then she spread beyond that, and now she's just studying it in
For anyone
general.
who doesn't know, paraphilia is,
Oddities, like kinks. We'll call them
yeah,
kinks. Yeah. So like if you're into feet, right?
that's
Not my
the
thing.
easy shorthand.
Yeah,
But
I
then,
actually
but
didn't
then,
go into physical therapy because I can't touch feet. So so I'm
but
the opposite of a paraphilia for foot fetish, but yeah,
but the,
fetishes, kinks, things like that. That's
but
that's
the
what
interesting thing about those is you can kind of like when we talk about stories, and we're talking about you know whether it's a real life story of I'm in the middle of the fat electrician's latest video on a one of the most decorated men of World War II, and a real life extreme example, or our fantasy extreme examples, like when we talk Wheel of Time and you're literally saving the world from the devil. And those extreme examples are helpful because they really shine a light. It's hard to see sometimes when it's just the normal everyday.
hmm
But when you look at these extreme examples, sometimes you can think it's easier to see, okay, why and how, and then
hmm
down that rabbit hole of the paraphilia, then that leads her into just sex in general, relationships in general,
hmm
and that kind of led her down this path where this is more what she's been focused on now. But it also helps her with what we're talking about here and what her latest book is about, because oh my gosh, are we all turning into paraphiliacs or whatever you would call it?
yeah. It's and that's we might get there, but that's especially true with the onset and just extreme AI that's coming in
Mm-hmm.
because she talks about robots and dolls and AI companions and all of that. I don't know if we're going to get there today. This might be a two-parter, but
Mm-hmm.
it was just really the numbers were the most interesting part to me. So I think that's where we'll start.
Okay, so actually going through the numbers is really important because Dr. So said this herself on the Modern Wisdom interview, and I have had this discussion with my own wife of, oh, those are just outliers. Oh, you're blowing it out of proportion. Oh, it's not that bad. And then no, honey, it is. And Dr. So said that she didn't think this, you know, one of the terms that she used that I've heard before is sex recession or sexlessness or, loneliness, all these, whatever you want to call it. She didn't think it was that bad.
Hmm
And then she actually started to look into the numbers. And one of the reasons she started to look into the numbers was thinking she's going to be able to say, calm down, people, it's not that bad. Sure, maybe there are some things we should be concerned about or be on the lookout for. And then she started to dig into it and goes, oh gosh, not only is it bad, it's worse and it's getting worse.
hmm Yeah, and one of the there are two big numbers that jumped out at me. You brought up the what was it? 43%.
I think it was 48%.
48%, so in the 40s, 40 something percent of married couples had not had sex in what was it, the last month?
I think it was a month. It may have been more than that, but both numbers, both the time and the percentage was absolutely shocking to me. And
Hmm
and and so I have um kind of sort of had not the talk, but my son knows my stance on it of if 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 anyone ever gives you the hackneyed joke of, you know, Oh, but I guess you wouldn't know anything about that, or I guess we wouldn't know anything about that because we're married. You should be able to look them dead in the eye and say, I don't know what you're talking about. We have sex all the time.
Hmm.
It's I don't know if I've said this when we were recording, and luckily my wife doesn't watch this, but I kind of got in trouble, but not really because it made everyone laugh when after our son was born and uh we were sitting around visiting my parents, and my mom and my sisters were talking to my wife about the delivery and everything. And one of my sisters, I don't remember which one, probably thinking she was going to embarrass me, started kind of poking and prodding me and then asked, "Did you watch?" And I flippantly said, "Heck no, I eat at that restaurant." And
Oh gosh. I might have our meme because I have a picture of it's like a pair of underwear and it says would definitely give 5 stars, eat here every day.
um yes, here's my Yelp review. But I mildly annoy my wife sometimes because if we go several days without having sex for some reason, I start whining and complaining that it's been weeks. And if we for some reason go a week or more, I start complaining it's been months. I don't even remember what it's like anymore. I hope I remember how to do it. And she starts beating me uh into submission for misbehaving. But I'm just joking. And I know I'm joking. And she knows I'm joking. And then I started listening to Dr. Show talking about these numbers. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is horrific. Is this really happening?
Hmm.
And yeah, apparently this is really happening. And it is an incredibly bad thing. In fact, the subtitle of this episode of Modern Wisdom, the title is Why Nobody is Having Sex Anymore, parentheses, and why it matters.
Hmm. Yeah, and then that's the thing because Sexton talks about this, but you hear it all across any. I mean, Dr. Howe, which we talked about before, Laura
Mm-hmm.
Howe, uh, doctors Morgenthaler and Brandon from the Sex Doctors, they talk about it a lot. Is I mean, what's the difference between being a roommate and being a married partner or even
Mm-hmm.
even a boyfriend girlfriend, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's that intimacy. You have those levels of it, and if you don't have that, then you're roommates. And this is kind of my coming out party because everybody that even would listen to this is in the know already because I've told them personally is I'm in the middle of a divorce. And we're doing the state process right now, but it's been going on for a long time, and we were roommates for a long time. In episode 165, I actually still stand by everything I said in that, which was making the marriage work because what we had was this is the person that I could trust more than anybody in the world. And the two things I look forward and for, and this might be your segue into what you said
Mm-hmm.
you wanted to talk about too, is trust and intimacy. And I had the trust. I still have the trust. I trust her. She would die for me and I would die for her still,
Mm-hmm.
but we didn't have the intimacy. We grew apart in that direction. And even when we tried to reignite it at one point, it was about 2018. So that's what, 8 years ago. It wasn't like with your sister, but it was not that extreme, but it was like that best friend you don't want to ruin things with. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what it felt like. And, so this is the process we're in. But you need that second part. Maybe there's thirds and fourths for people. I mean, I have things I like. I want to be able to like, do some things that I think are fun, eat the foods I like, all of that stuff. But those two things are the core for
Yeah.
me. And one was lacking, and we're perfectly fine about it. In fact, we should write a book on how we did it because
Mm.
I've seen so many messy breakups in my life.
Well,
And
yeah,
this,
and because like I said, it's your example is atypical. You could even call it extreme, but because of that, there's a lot to learn of, okay, well, we're not there yet, but it feels like we're going there. So what do we do about it?
well, one of the
Is
things we said in our long 3 hour talk where we discussed this was I said, I think we're at the point where that apathy will become resentment.
mm-hmm.
And I think we were right on the edge of that, especially since, I mean, people that are in the know, Sexton talks about the four or five types of infidelity, and one of them is it reminds you what's out there.
Mm,
It's not like, oh, I'm trading you in for a soulmate or whatever. It's, oh, that still exists for me and it's lacking here. And I think we were at the point of that too. And so I was like, you know what? Let's make this official. Ben's basically a young, I mean, we did a great job raising a son. He's a young man now. He's only 16, but he's on his way. And
well,
it
and
was,
that's why going into resentment is so dangerous. You have a child. That child needs a mother and a father through their whole life.
mhm.
That never stops. And you don't want to risk that, that falling apart, that losing that part of the relationship, which is so important. As
Well,
we've talked about kind of ad nauseum, one of the points Sexton makes is it's not all about you. Once kids are involved, it's heck,
mhm.
before kids, it's not all about you. It's
Well,
it's us.
Adam
And then
Lane
after
Smith too. He
kids,
says if
yes,
you're unfaithful, you're unfaithful to your kids as well as your partner.
yes.
And the whole point of kind of coming out here and being open about it was that intimacy. We're talking the intimacy part uh, a lot, and the reason I stand by everything I said in episode 165 was that was also powerful too, because it helped something survive that long despite not having that part.
Hmm.
And so go back to that one. We that I think that's one of our best episodes we ever did. And yeah, just give that one a listen as well if you're new to the channel. But it might be helpful because maybe you're at this point in your relationship. But yeah, so we're gonna have different perspectives on things now because I'm in the market, I guess, technically, right? And you're giving well, it's been over 20 years, right?
Hmm.
So
Well, I'm wearing my shirt that my son got me a couple of birthdays ago, I think it was, is the best dads get promoted to grandpa. So I'm at that point in my life.
well, hopefully one
And
day I'm there too, but he's only 16. Hopefully not anytime in the next couple years.
don't rush it. Don't rush it.
Yeah.
Um, man. Okay, so
Oh,
let me
okay,
start
so
here.
wait, we did the married number, but I have to
Yes,
throw
there are
another
some
number out
bigger
there.
number, some other numbers there that are also very important.
Yeah, the one that really shot out at me because I can math is 1 in 3 young adults, males, 30 and under, is hasn't had sex in the last year.
Year. Yeah, that's
Year,
big.
yeah. And we're not talking like this is 18 to 30. This isn't like 5-year-olds being averaged
Hmm.
into it,
Hmm.
right? This is like 18 to 30, like viable men that are probably wanting to do this thing, have not in the last year. A year is a long time if you've been going without it. Uh, and 1 in 7 females, and this is where I can math come in. That's a lot less females going without than
I've
there
heard
is
one in
males.
seven. I've heard 1 in 5. Either way,
The the
there's a
the, the number
disparity
she
there.
quoted was 1 in 7.
Yeah. And
And
I've also heard, so I watched a second interview with her to prepare for this because it just happened to pop up. And it's from the Free Press, which is both a publication and they have a YouTube channel where they do long form interviews. And the reason I watched this one was because the interviewer was a young woman. And I thought, this might be interesting because you have a completely different perspective from, I don't know how old Williamson is, but I'm assuming he's like late
mid
30s,
mid 30s.
mid
I think he's
30s.
I think he's 36. I think he said that
So
recently.
a mid 30s male versus I'm guessing 28 to 30-year-old woman. And so she has different interests, different points of emphasis. And so it was an interesting addendum to the interview with Williamson. And and when she was citing some of these numbers in that interview, which was 3 weeks ago, so depending on when they did their interview, sometime around the time she did the Williams interview. I'm pretty sure she said millennial and Gen Z,
Hmm.
which millennial could be up to 40. So it could be even worse than what we're saying.
Well, it could be up to 45 because remember, we're the last year of
Oh,
Gen
that's a good
X.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
you're 47, I'm 46, or
yes,
yeah.
yes. I'll be 47 this year. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So
September. Yeah. So you're like three-quarters of a year
yeah.
older than me. Yeah.
Um, point being now, and she talks about this in both of these interviews, Dr. So, that it is much worse in Gen Z, and that's one of her concerns is how rapidly worse it is getting, but it's still pretty bad with millennials.
Hmm.
This loneliness, sexlessness, lack of relationship, and that that 1 in 3 versus 1 in 5 or 1 in 7, whichever number, that's a big effing deal for a couple of reasons.
Well,
Um,
my two reasons are it means because there are more females having sex than males by quite a bit. I'm almost twice as many in
mhm,
the delta there, right? Is either very few men are getting many partners, or they're dating older.
mhm.
Because then people like myself, which actually I could say this from going out, it's not that hard. If you're a 40 something fit male, you can find a 20 something partner that night. Easy. But I put qualifiers in there. If you're a good looking fit male in your 40s, you will find a 20 something partner that night.
If you have even rudimentary social skills, because this is something I am noticing more and more taking classes, and you talked about this when you first started going back to school, and you were in graduate classes, so you're talking an older cohort.
Mhm.
I'm taking classes with
Older, 23, 24. I mean, these are
older than fresh
traditional
out of high
students.
school.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I have an interesting
Theoretically, prefrontal cortex fully
mhm.
developed. Yeah.
Because I'm going to a community college and some of my classes are at night, I have an interesting mix of fresh out of high school and middle-aged people taking night classes for a second career or a new career or enhancing their original career, whatever. So it's this kind of funny mix of old geezers like me and youngins, like real youngins. Um, and man, these people are really awkward. These kids. It's like,
Mhm.
and especially when you put those groups together, like in the night classes where there will be a mix of the youngins and the old geezers, and that contrast becomes more glaring of the lack of social skills. Um, and this is something Dr. So and Williamson talked about quite a bit is some of the mechanisms that ostensibly should provide a release, like porn, or make things easier, like a dating app, have very quickly, in her opinion, and I think rightly so, I think she's right on the money here, started making things worse.
Hmm.
Because so here's an interesting analogy. Hillary Lane on her channel, A Second Story, put out another banger. I should probably rephrase that considering she's kind of hot and the subject matter here. Another really good, insightful video and the title of it was Your Brain on Fiction, How the Content You Consume Changes You. And she even goes into, your area here, the psychology mumbo jumbo, and cites a number of studies where basically she starts out debunking the idea that started to get popular in the 90s with when school shootings started to flare up of, oh, it's violence in video games.
Hmm.
Actually, no. There were a number of studies that showed it's not violence per se, because, and we've talked about this, and this goes into my Looney Tunes example. If the violence is obviously unrealistic, so in Looney Tunes, it's a literal cartoon. In the
Hmm.
Three Stooges, it's cartoonish. Okay. Your brain can very easily differentiate, and it kind of puts it off in its own little box.
And then you get movies like Hostel. That one gave me like goosebumps up the back of my neck because
Hmm.
you're like, there are actually people that
Yes.
would do this.
Yes. Exactly. And so
In
the
fact,
more
the more we're
realistic it
learning about
becomes,
the
the more that
Epstein
line
stuff,
blurs.
yeah, the more we're
Yes.
learning about the Epstein stuff is it's more like hostile than it is like just pedos.
And one of the points, one of the studies that Hillary Lane brings up that ties in so nicely with the things Dr. Deborah So was talking about when she talked about porn and how people are being exposed to it younger and younger and younger, and how that's a problem, is that where exposure to media violence becomes a problem, a significant, serious, you know, observable problem, is when realistic violence is exposed to the young. Because when you are young, you have not developed that barrier in your mind that helps you instinctually, instantly differentiate between the real and the fictitious.
Yeah, but also I think there's a genetic variable there because this is where it becomes nuanced with that conversation was she also pointed out that paraphilias, especially when it comes to violence and porn, isn't caused by the exposure so much as you gravitate towards it if you have that already instinctually inside of you. So there's a little bit of I think this is one of those a little column A, a little column B kind of
Right.
thing.
But where the danger is for, let's just say, the average individual, the middle of the bell curve, right? Where the danger is, and this is what Dr. So talked about in both of these interviews that I watched, is something that is the main focus of Hillary Lane's video, is the more you watch something, the more you accept it as reality, even if
Mm.
it's fiction. It changes. It's the Overton when it changes your baseline of perception. And as Dr. So talked about a lot, is the problem with watching too much porn is this changes your expectation of what a sexual encounter is like.
Well, and I think actually, because we've talked so much about the feminine and the masculine, I think this actually floats even more in the direction of the female because the female psychology is the expectation of what should be, right? So they wear makeup to because they expect to they wear makeup and put on their dresses and wear their Gucci bags and all of this stuff for other females. They don't do it for the men, right? We just say, "Oh, that's a beautiful woman. I'm going to, talk to her. Hopefully, if you're man enough, right?" But so much is about image, and she didn't really go into this, and I thought she was going to. But she talked about the effect of porn on females, and I've had some encounters where I'm like, really? That's what you want? I don't think you want that. I don't think you want that
Mm-hmm.
thing that you're saying you want. I think you think I want that. And I'm like, no, I just want to be intimate with somebody.
That they touched on that briefly, and I thought that needs a deeper dive. And she talked about it more in the Free Press interview. And again, I think it's because the interviewer was a young woman and asked more follow-ups and was more interested in that, and talks and brought up specifics of, you know, cover your ears if you're easily offended, but choke me, daddy, spit
Hmm.
on me, slap me. These kinds of things that you are seeing in, as she pointed out, there is an escalation in what would otherwise be considered mainstream vanilla porn. You're seeing this more and more, and so guys think this is what they're supposed to do, and young women
Think
think
that's what they're
this is
supposed to
what guys
get. Yeah,
want,
yeah.
and neither of them are really satisfied with the outcome.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to push back on that, but this is anecdotal because
Mm-hmm.
again, I'm in the market in well, not in the market, but I have been dating somebody who is into more of that BDSM type stuff. And it wasn't that long ago, we went full 50 Shades. And I was more uncomfortable in the situation than she was. Now I set my boundaries. I will not do certain things.
Hmm.
Like I'll give a great example. I mean, I will not slap you in the face.
Hmm.
If you want me to slap you in the face, I'm the wrong partner for you.
Hmm.
So I will not do that. But there were things along the ways, the tie downs, that kind of stuff, and it was kind of fun. I will say it was kind of fun, but it was more fun for her than it was for me. And so there are people that are into it, but then you get kind of creeped out by her data on the background to that when she was talking about you can predict childhood abuse better with BDSM than you can pedophilia. And it was like, okay, that's kind of disturbing. So where is
That's
this
very
coming
disturbing.
from?
But also one of her concerns, and I think this may have been more in the Free Press interview, was if if you're not really into this, if you're not asking it because you're curious about it or because you like it, it turns you on, whatever, but because you think this is the way it's supposed to go, and then ultimately you're not satisfied with it, the concern is then there's an escalation of, oh, we must have not gone hard enough. I must have not done it right.
Mhm.
I and she brings up one of the things she brings up is the rise in what do you call it? Choking,
Yeah.
autoerotic asphyxiation,
Yeah.
of the rise in that and how potentially dangerous it is, like
Yep.
literally deadly. And the
Which
difference
I have partaken in, but also I have choked people out in
in real life,
in real
in the
life,
ring,
and I know
yes.
I know where the boundaries are on that, and yeah,
And that's the difference. And I think that's where she's really on to something, and where the concern is um well, a sad example, because this happened near you, is the teenage kid who invited some of his friends over and then
oh
shot them
God, yeah,
because
oh
he wanted to know what it felt like.
yeah, that one's close to home too. Not, I mean,
Literally.
literally because it was 2 doors down from my sister-in-law, that
Mhm.
technically sister-in-law, and yeah, he actually invited more kids over. Those are just the ones that showed up. He wanted to kill lots of people
Just to see what it felt like, because he
just to see what it
was
was felt like to kill somebody. Yeah.
and I think that's a combination. Now, clearly, this that doesn't happen very often, so there was something wrong with this kid,
It's an extreme example. I mean,
and
he
it is an
obviously was
extreme
psychopath. He
example.
was also on a lot of drugs, like antidepressants and anxiety drugs. And this is where this is one of the places I think RFK, he's loud on it. He needs to be louder. Is what are these drugs doing to our kids when it comes
Hmm.
to these kind of behaviors?
And back to where what Hillary Lane and Dr. So talked about and how it ties together is, okay, if you are being exposed to porn regularly, even and one of the things she brought up is even prepubescent children, and that is where it really gets dangerous, because you really don't know what's going on here and how to react to it, and it's making you feel weird and it's messing with your head, and then it doesn't stop. It continues through your teenage years.
Hmm.
Then you are creating this very warped foundation that you're building your whole house of the expectations of intimacy and relationships upon. And that is going to be a very, you know, dangerous crack house that's going to collapse and
And
explode.
and we're getting to a new era too, because it's availability of what you see too. Because I don't remember exactly how old I was, but it was not double digits yet when I saw my first Playboy magazine, and I was hooked. I was hooked immediately, and it's funny because we talk Wheel of Time. That it was like a semi older, semi redheaded girl, and I always envisioned her as more not Morius. What's the mother of Elaine?
Mortgage, yeah.
Morgase, yeah, yeah. I always envisioned that as Morgase in my head when I was reading the books. And that was the first female naked body I'd ever seen that I can remember. Obviously when you're a baby, nobody puts their clothes on around you, but it's that was the first female form I'd ever seen. And I was hooked. And I'd probably say I was 8, maybe. And I am still hooked on, if I do partake in that, when I do, it's solo stuff. It is just the female form.
Mhm.
But what happens if you're 8 or 9 years old and you come across, Bang Bus or something where they're choking in the back of a van, that kind of stuff. Is that what you're hooked on? I don't know. That's what we're
And
trying to figure out.
and the woman in those videos is an actress. She
Mhm.
is performing for the camera and performing for the overwhelmingly male audience. So, ooh, she's into it. She's acting, guys. She's acting.
Hmm.
Just like that stripper really isn't into you. She's a pretty used car salesman, okay? Shh, just let for most people most of the time. We don't need to bring up the exceptions to the rule. Um,
And there's
but
actually a sign in the Hooters by me that says, drink enough beer to think you have a chance.
but again, that's the distinction is we we had enough real life human interaction as well
Mhm.
as examples both positive and negative to be able to separate the fact from the fiction and be able to navigate life. And the concern is, and this is something I've been wanting to bring up for a while, and um she talks about it a little bit more in the Free Press interview, but I'm I'm concerned with the how did she phrase this? The customizability
Mm.
of fantasy.
Well, we see
Okay.
that with dating apps already. So we see that already, the precursor to that. 6 6, the three sixes. They talked about this
Hmm.
in the interview, but
Hmm.
we've talked about it many times. The three sixes, you're already customizing your dating experience.
Hmm. But
And you're limiting your dating pool to the people who are psychotic enough to be in those categories, right?
but see, here's the problem that I see though is that okay, you can customize all you want on a dating app, but that's actually going to limit your experience. Okay.
Mhm.
And you're just going to get more frustrated and turn to these other things to get your release, male or female. When, when, when we looked at a Playboy or even once the internet started to become a thing and you found it online, whether video or image, I feel like there's a difference between, man, I need to yank one out. Sorry, Mama Sierra, I know you listen to this, but I need to, I feel like I need to speak bluntly about these topics is
Mhm.
say you see a hot girl at the gym and it's like, ooh, now you're turned on and you gotta tug one out. You're not going to find
And she's
exactly
Frankowiak, by the way. She's not.
okay.
Or,
You
or Gilbert? Did she keep? Mom, I have to ask you, did you keep Gilbert? Okay, so
anyway,
she hasn't been here for a long time.
that's a good point. But
Yeah.
I think it matters that what is in your head isn't what you find when you self pleasure. Okay. Because then you're not satisfied. So then you might actually try it for real. You're going to keep going because you haven't achieved your goal. You haven't you have found a substitute. This isn't the real thing. I still want to go get the real thing. So maybe next time you'll actually talk to the pretty girl at the gym because you weren't satisfied. Now, this is something I don't remember if it was in her video, Fan
Let,
Fiction
let,
Has Destroyed Writing or The Absolute Degeneracy of Modern Writing, but this is something that Hillary Lane talked about that I was jumping up and down wanting Williamson to push harder on, which is
I mean, it's already a 2.5 hour interview.
I know, but Dr. So didn't talk a lot about, and partly because there's not a lot of data on the effect of porn on women, on young women.
Hmm.
And that leads to a bigger problem that I think
See,
maybe
I
will
thought
be
she
part
talked
two.
more on that than most people do.
But it was after because she didn't even know what the heck Williamson was talking about when he was talking about the literature,
Mm,
pornographic literature of the romantasy and these other
Oh
genres.
yeah, don't get me started on that because I read a book not that long ago,
I mean, and
uh,
mhm,
Haunting Adeline, I think is the name of the book. And the person that had me write it was like, "Hey, I wanted you to read it." Excuse me, had me read it. Was like, "Hey, I want you to." Sorry about the dogs. Uh, what do you think? And I'm like, he abused her. He raped her. Not only raped her, he raped her with a gun. Yeah, she's like, "Oh yeah, that one had the internet all exploded." I'm like, "Yeah, it should. It should." Because this guy is not good. Oh yeah, you take his profession. He hunted child predators for a living. That was his profession. And you're like, okay, he's a good guy. Except what he did to her. And you're like, no, he used his skills from hunting these other people to hunt her.
mhm.
And I was like, that's not a good guy. I don't care where it came from. And these women are like, oh no, that was fine. And I'm like, no, that was not fine. Nothing he did was fine. He
Eh,
stalked her.
mhm.
He raped her. He did all of these things just because it kind of worked out in the end doesn't make it fine.
One of the points Hillary Lane makes in her videos when she goes into this, and the reason it was so disturbing but engrossing, is she doesn't talk just about the she starts with the publishing of this is a big effing deal. Just look at the numbers of these books that are being sold in this genre. But then she takes a deep, dark dive into the online world, the fan written, the amateur
Hmm.
written stories. And one of her points was, and this is what got me harping on customization and why I think it's so concerning, is whatever idea, whatever story, whatever fantasy you have in your head, there are so many subgenres. And
Hmm.
on these, I don't remember all the sites, and I don't, even if I did, I wouldn't want to name them. But she points out these three or four different very popular sites and shows how you can go through and you can check all these boxes of this is what I'm into. And now all of these stories with all of these tags are going to pop up. And so from the predominantly female, because they're much more interested in the literary, because they're much more interested in the story. But as Williamson pointed out when he was explaining this to Dr. So, is it's pornography for women. It's pornography with more story. And
No,
some of
I'm
these
actually
sections
trying
are
to look
very
up.
explicit.
I'm trying to look up the chart he brought up.
Yeah. But
That's yeah. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I think so.
Where he brought
Um,
up the aggressive, the one paraphilia that's more common in women than in men is the aggression.
mhm. But Hillary Lane's point was this is dangerous for young women because if you are able to customize, fully customize to the point where you get exactly what you want to satisfy that fetish, kink, urge, desire, what reason is there for you to go out in real life? And for men,
Well, it's
we're much
scary. It's scary. Have you ever approached a woman? I mean, it's freaking scary because you're banking your manhood on whether she says yes or no. Now, I
Mhm,
know guys that are like, "Hey, how are you doing? I'm so and so, blah blah blah." Oh, no. Okay. And I know a guy that will turn to the next woman right by her and be like, "Hey, I'm this person." He's like the ultimate salesman, right?
mhm.
But most people are not in that range of the bell curve. Most people are like, ow, that hurt. I looked at her across the room and I said, that's the one. And I went over there and she said, you're not the one.
Exactly. So you can now, we're not, who knows how far away we are from now you can go home, put on a VR headset or get your doll or your robot or your AI companion, and you can make her or him look exactly like that person, act exactly like you wish that person would have acted, and now you can fully satisfy that desire. And so, once again, what's the point of going outside?
Hmm.
What's the point of
Okay.
talking to a real person? And one of the points Dr. So made of the and why it matters is yes, the same centers of the brain light up when you self pleasure versus when you have sex, but it's not nearly as intense. And there are other parts of the brain that light up and other witchcraft, alchemy, hormones that are released in the aftermath that you don't get. You don't get the cuddling, which, yeah, guys, we need that too, even though we don't need it as much. You don't get the cuddling. You don't get the after, you know, you don't get the next morning. All of these things that create stronger human connection, you don't get. So she made the point of in the short term, this might feel good. In the long term, it's going to be, I mean, it's any addiction. Any addiction, technically or colloquially, starts as a coping mechanism and feels good. It fills a gap, it fills a need, but then it's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then it leads, okay, yes, the AI companion feels good. Yes, the sex doll, she literally went and looked in. I mean, she said each chapter is a different kind of adventure in this world, and one of them was sex dolls. And she said she was shocked at how real they felt. All right. But then she also mentioned, I don't know if it was with Williamson or in the Free Press interview, she talked to owners, and a number of them were already bored.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of her point of, yeah, it's going to feel good initially, but it's not the same. And even if you don't have like the like, I think for some people like you and us, we're going to know right away it's not the same because we've had the real thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even if you've never had the real thing, even if you're some poor Gen Z kid who was never able to connect with another human being and have a relationship, you've still got 300,000 years of human evolution and human experience that is going to tell you on a subconscious level, and then you're just going to get more frustrated if you don't know why this doesn't this doesn't feel right. This doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel as good as I hoped it was. This doesn't feel as good as it did initially. I'm losing that high. And so
Yeah,
you're
and he brings up Baumeister, which I also listened to his interview with Baumeister, who's one of the most misquoted people in social psych.
mhm.
Uh, I've read so many papers in social psych that I'm like, that's not what Baumeister says. And people go, well, how do you know? I'm like, because I watched him being interviewed. Okay. He tells you what he meant. But he's the original marshmallow test guy.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but very interested in this sexual selection thing as well. And so it's they brought it up that it's like, okay, is that what you're really into, or is that a selection pressure? And one thing they did talk about that I thought was interesting was males selecting for women that can handle pain because uh I mean, childbirth is painful. Childbirth is very painful, and a woman who can handle pain is probably going to be better at that. And that was interesting. But go ahead, where you were going.
I mean, that was really that was my main point. I wanted to know if you think I'm overblowing it or not, but I feel like the ability to customize is going to create an explosion of. I liked the term Williamson used at one point when Dr. So was talking about it being a coping mechanism. He used the word sedation,
Yeah,
that you
yeah,
are sedating yourself.
yeah.
And
That's actually his coin term, the sedation hypothesis. Yeah.
yes, and I loved that term of, you know what, I can't be bothered. Let me just take a hit of this, sedative, whether it's a literal or a metaphoric sedative, just so I feel good for a little while. And then it's going to wear off, and then you're going to need another hit.
Hmm.
And it's going to keep you one of the things that sucks so much about the old school traditional SSRIs and why people have complained about them, rightly so, is that for for some people, I don't know how many, it might be a lot. In order to take enough to where you feel better, quote unquote, you have to take enough to where you feel like a zombie.
Hmm.
And that is what people are doing with these kinds of escapism is they are self-medicating.
Yeah, and for those that are just listening, I brought up the chart that I was talking about earlier, and I just brought it up from his podcast here. But this is showing the numbers on
Mm-hmm.
uh, preferences related to aggression, pleasure, and pain in pornography among male and female interviewees. And this I thought was one of the most interesting things
Mm-hmm.
is aggression is arousing. You're about 2 to 1 for females to males. Hard aggression is arousing. You're about 3 to 1 for females to males. And would like more aggression in mainstream pornography. Women prefer it, apparently. And that's
Yeah.
like 5 to 1.
That's like that looks like around 5% to just under 20%.
Actively seek aggression, a little closer, but it's still more female to male. Aroused by women showing pleasure in response to aggression. That was more male. That's
That
the
was
only one
roughly
on the list.
even slightly more male.
Yeah. And aroused by women showing pain in response to aggression. That was more female.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to like, why is this the only paraphilia that is more female dominated in their preference? And I think this is multi-part. So if we take an evolutionary standpoint, aggression, I've talked about dualities, right? Aggression gets the hunt. Aggression protects their tribe, right? Where does that do they prefer that in the mating experience because that also means the other things are true. I mean, that would make sense, right? That would make sense at all. And is it the males the one thing that males liked was seeing a woman handle the pain? Is that because childbirth is painful and we want that in a woman? I don't know. We don't know. This is all speculative,
Well,
but it's an interesting number. Anytime anything bucks the trend, it's an interesting number to me, right? So male paraphilias are dominated, or excuse me, almost every paraphilia is dominated by males, except this one.
mhm.
So why is it this one?
I don't know. I don't even have a guess right now, but this leads me into my kind of closing thought here, because I think we should wrap this up. And then next week we'll talk about the other thing that I thought was really important and interesting was hypergamy, which we've
Yeah,
talked
yeah.
about before, but they talked about a lot and
But I
how
think
all
these
of
are
this is
connected though.
impacting that. I
I
do.
think these are
That's
connected to because if you're the
absolutely.
dominant hunter, if you're the dominant fighter, you are up and across and above in status in our development. I mean, I'm talking hundreds of thousands of years versus the last
Mhm.
2000, you know.
I don't know how to say this um without making women angry. So I don't know how
There,
many female viewers we have,
okay,
but
wait, hold on. I need to bring up the other thing I had so
oh
you can
yeah,
uh
yeah. We have
okay,
a stand-up clip, but it's text, so we'll have to
it's
read it
text.
out.
I'll
But
read it out loud. Yeah.
it is appropriate to this because I asked my wife about this last night because we were going to talk about this, and it led to an argument immediately.
Okay, so this is I don't know who the it's some female comedian. Maybe I'll find the name before we're done. But I don't want men to go to therapy. They're getting too smart and learning we're the problem. And now they're coming home and asking us to do dumb shit like respect their boundaries. And that's annoying because that wasn't the plan. You were supposed to learn to respect my boundaries while I openly invade yours. That's the stand-up clip that I had to read out loud. But yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
now go on.
So one of the big problems that I thought wasn't really addressed, and I actually got more annoyed by when I listened to the Free Press interview because the interviewer was female, was the double standard.
Mm.
And to her credit, Dr. So has talked about this. She talked about this in both of these interviews and has been talking about it a while and taken a lot of heat for it because she comes from academia. That's where she started. And she is getting a lot of heat from people in general and even former colleagues and friends about her criticisms of DEI and how the idea that there are certain jobs which men need not apply for. And if you do apply, your resume is going in the garbage because this position is for a check the box, and it ain't you, man, but especially straight man, but especially straight white man. All right. That's a big problem. And that is it ties into the hypergamy that we'll talk about next time. But there's a double standard here too when it comes to porn. And she touched on this in both interviews. And I remember back in the 2000s, when was I in grad school? So this would have been 2006 to 2008, somewhere in there. And I was in a an undergraduate class that I was taking for grad credit, which meant I had to do extra work. It also meant I was surrounded by undergrads, but at least they were upperclassmen because it was an upper level class. And one of the girls in the class wanted my help with an essay she was writing, and the topic that she had chosen was this. And again, this is 20 years ago, and it was about the escalation of aggression to outright violence in pornography and the effect that might have on young men, and the fear that the more of this young men watch, the more they will become violent.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the framework, the Overton window, was all about violence towards women. We have to be concerned about the young men, the boys who are watching this pornography and how it's going to make them even more toxically masculine. Never was there a question about what about women? What
Mm-hmm.
role do they play in this?
Well, and
What?
that's a very important question because here's the deal, ladies. If you're a lady and you are still listening to this, we will do whatever you want.
Mhm.
And if you're saying, do this to me, I'm probably going to do that to you. And so your expectation is actually more important than my expectation. And this is where we get into that range of cross-sex mind reading is women are saying that's what men want, and men are saying that's what she wants. And if it's really what you want, okay, find the guy. If that's not what you want, find the guy. But make it clear because we will do whatever you want. I told you I have certain boundaries in it, but at the same time, I've gone past things I've never done before because that's what she wanted. And I was like, "Are you sure?" Yeah, okay. Here we go.
Exactly. And the
Women have the keys to sex. We have the key to relationship. So if you use those keys properly,
mhm.
and everybody will get along a lot better, I think.
And not only hold yourself and hold each other accountable, but be more vocal about, hey, why isn't anyone interested in this? Why isn't anyone looking into this? Because in those videos of Hillary Lane's on her channel, The Second Story, that I referenced, all of her examples about the effects on this explosion of literary pornography and its effects on girls and young women, all of it was anecdotal. And that was one of her complaints was, I can't find numbers on this. She said she pointed out and she brought up examples of innumerable studies of the effects of pornography on boys and young men. No one seems to care about what the effects are on girls and young women. And there is a grotesque double standard there of, ooh, icky boys and young men. This is just part of toxic masculinity, right? This is something Laura
Mhm.
Howe complains about, and she talks about of, hey, wait a minute, your to the stand-up bit that you read there is you, the woman, are constantly saying, I need you to do these things for me to be happy and satisfied in this relationship and fulfilled. But when he says, okay, and I need you to do these things and they're physical and they relate to sex, it's, ooh, gross. You're all you care about is one thing. And it's, well, no, that's what he
Yeah,
needs. You need these things. He needs these things.
I'm kind of paraphrasing, but I might get a direct quote from Laura Howe, where she said, "Therapists are doing everything in sex therapy other than the sex."
Yeah. No, I have heard her say that more than once. Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. The point being, Dr. So acknowledged this in both interviews when it was asked about, well, what's the effect on girls and young women? I don't know. We don't know.
We don't know.
That's not a good
We
thing.
still don't even have a good idea of what the effect on young men is. The sedation is probably there because you get that post nut clarity where you're just like, oh, okay, you know what? It wasn't worth the pursuit.
Well, to a certain degree, we do know some of it, and that was where I wanted to
Hmm.
bring up this 20-year-old story because turns out, as you already referenced, Dr. So mentioned, well, no, actually, um, we don't know now of with like Gen Z and how
Hmm.
early that was her. This is the unknown and this is the concern. But what the data of say 10 to 15 years ago was showing that she talked about is actually no, more aggression and violence in porn doesn't lead to, it is a chicken and egg thing. It's the cause, not the effect. It's no, you, and she dives into the data with Williamson, and Williamson was kind of surprised by this of, actually no, it's you go looking for the hardcore stuff because you already had a problem.
Hmm.
It's not the other way around. It doesn't cause the problem. It's the
Hmm.
people who go looking for it are already the ones that had some kind of antisocial disorder to begin with.
Which I mean, maybe I'll pat myself on the back because I just love the female form. That is what makes me happy when I have to go that direction. But then I do that stuff comes across my desk because algorithms and whatever. But I'm like, and actually, I'll lose my little bit of horny and be like, oh my God, what is that?
Yeah.
That's no bueno. And people are actually into that, and I'll actually click on it to see how many views it got. And it's like, oh, that's got
It,
5 million views. Holy crap.
yeah. It's concerning to say the
Hmm.
least. Um, and it is trying to find a way to end on a happy note.
Well, I mean, the thing is, we should. So I'll kind of bring in a happy note. Is s- sexuality is an amazing thing.
Mm.
I always say my two biggest interests in psychology are trust and sexuality, and they're connected. They're actually very connected, and because they're actually two things that are counterproductive to your personal survival.
Well, pause a second. Is I've mentioned this before. It is kind of reference this is intimacy requires trust. I
Mhm.
cannot be intimate with you, my best friend. I tell you things that I don't tell anyone else, that I don't talk about with anyone else, because
Except we
I
blabber it
know
out on the internet here, but
every once in a while. But I mean,
yeah.
we may dance around the issue, but when we're sitting out on the back porch smoking a cigar
Hmm.
and drinking some bourbon, I talk about things and in ways that I would not talk about with anyone else. And I'm not,
Hmm.
even when we're yelling at the clouds here, because of the trust.
Hmm.
Okay. That is any serious relationship, whether it is a platonic friendship or whether it is a serious eros or whatever the other kinds of love I'm brain farting here
Eros,
of the,
agape,
yeah,
the other two, one is
uh,
family love and the other is just universal love for everything. So
all
that, yeah.
four of those, all four of those require trust. And that is how you get intimacy, whatever kind of intimacy you're talking about.
Hmm. Yeah, well, especially this is a different conversation. I'm trying to remember who it was. Oh, the Jimmy Carr was saying it on stage. Is one reason tall men are more attractive to females is because it implies protection. And it implies that formidable, I will be there to protect you.
Hmm.
And yeah, the three P's with men: protect, provide, procreate, right? You can't get the third P unless you have the first two. And that's what a lot of people are looking for. How this got convoluted into all of these other things, I think novelty plays into it a little bit. I think, well, this is something I've learned in the BDSM community now that I've dabbled in it, is the main attraction to the dominant male in the case of that I've been in. I've never been a sub male, but the dominant male to the sub female is she has to trust him to not actually hurt her. And that's actually what brings
Mm.
the act the I would say the lust, but actually the love into that relationship is you, they're putting you in their hands and they're saying, do these things to me that could hurt me, but I know you won't hurt me.
So that is interesting, and interesting, and it brings to mind why I feel like today and next week tie together, because I think what I'm going to talk about when we talk about hypergamy is this warped sense I feel societally and especially amongst women of what uh, up or across, when we're talking about dating, what status, quote unquote, means. It has become warped. And I think that's why there's such a problem here. In the same way that if you look at that chart that you brought up, that Williamson brought up, I think one of the things that's going on there and why it's a problem is because this warped idea of what masculinity is, and you brought up the provide and protect. And okay, so what is quote unquote aggression? And we've talked before about, well, it can be good or it can be bad. What is it being used for? And so I
Yeah,
think there's this innate desire to have masculinity, but this warped perception of what that is. And I think that's what feeds that a lot. And that's why I think these two subjects connect when we're talking about sex and relationships here.
yeah. If you're still listening, leave this in the comments too, because another thought for next conversation that just popped in my head is we touched on the conversation around that BDSM was a better predictor of past abuse
Mm-hmm.
than other things like the extreme things like pedophilia and stuff. We've also touched on in past episodes that you could have negative uh, uh, role models that could actually make you a better person. And I wonder if the end result is it actually makes them feel more loved, that you can be on the edge of the abuse without actually being an abuser.
Hmm. Interesting.
That it actually creates that contrast. That these people are into that because they were abused in the past by someone who had no control, but they're looking for that person, the opposite side. In most cases, it's a man and a woman. They're looking for that man that can do that thing without losing control. And so they're actually looking for the control. They're not looking for the thing.
Mm.
And so, yeah, leave something in the comments. I don't care who you are, pen name, whatever, because this is a touchy subject. But I mean, it's a very interesting subject, and I
Mm.
wonder if it's the trust that's the attractive thing. It's not all of the other things that go involved with it. They just have to be there to have that trust.
Yeah. Well, we're going to stay on this idea, but shift the focus from, we spend all our time talking about pornography and its effects on sex and relationships. And next time we're going to talk hypergamy, which we've talked about before,
Hmm.
but there was a lot of interesting things that came up with Dr. So in her discussion with Williamson, and then in this free press one that I also watched.
Well,
And I highly
also,
recommend you go listen to both.
yeah, and also hypergamy is about dominance, right? It's that status of the male, right? It is dominance.
Mhm.
Well, why not bring it in the bedroom? Why not? So,
It's the most intimate part of your relationship, literally.
yep. It's what makes you not roommates, as we talked
Yep.
about earlier. Yeah.
All right. Well, we will talk about that next time.
All right. Everybody like, share, subscribe. If you've listened this far, you probably already subscribed, but send it to somebody. Send it to somebody and help us out. We're at over 100
Woohoo.
subscribers now. If we get to 500, I think we can do live shows and we can play around with stuff. And, unfortunately, you'd get ads at that point, but skip them.
All right. See y'all then.